guys, Jeannine here with another review for you. So all month long on our podcast, Morgan Hasn't Seen, I am showing Morgan holiday horror films he hasn't seen. We kicked off that series this week with Black Christmas 2019. While not a great film, it actually made for some great discussion in terms of the intentions of the film, what it was trying to say about kind of females in horror, females, and kind of what they go through in terms of, kind of college situations, but just not a great execution. So we kind of talk about how the film didn't work and really had a great talk about the intentions of that film. So if you want to check out our discussion on Black Christmas 2019 for our kickoff episode of Holiday Horror Morgan Hasn't Seen, you can find the Morgan Hasn't Seen podcast on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. All places podcasts can be found, so please check that out. But I thought it would be fun to take a look back at the other iterations of Black Christmas, the 1974 film, which I already did a review on. You can find it right here on this channel, so please check that out. And today I'm going to be talking about Black Christmas 2006. The first remake to the original film, and Bob Clark actually served as a producer on this film. So he actually kind of had a little bit input in terms of elaborating on his original story. In the 1974 version, the phone calls are a lot of kind of muttering about Billy. So now we kind of get we see our killer Billy and his kind of fleshed out story. So that's kind of where the 2006 remake takes us. I actually think it's a better remake than the 2019 one. The 2019 one, which I talked a little bit about in the 1974 review and we talked about on the podcast episode. This movie didn't have to be called Black Christmas. That movie 2019 could have been any Christmas set horror film. It didn't even need to be set at Christmas. It really didn't hold true any of the elements from the original film, aside from it just taking place on a college campus. So this one is actually very much taking a lot from the original film, I think, especially with Bob Clark's involvement, and just kind of really kind of trying to bump up, I think, the score a little bit in terms of kind of when it came out, 2006. You're kind of getting horror movies that all kind of have the same kind of vibe and tone, kind of a little bit over the top. So yeah, and this film was kind of full of your typical hot, young, now we get like a lot of brunettes of the time actresses, Lacey Chabert, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Michelle Trachtenberg. Have a returning character from the original film. Andrea Martin, she was a character, the one with the glasses in the original 1974 film. She returns as a returning character from the original film. We have Mrs. Mack was the house mother in 1974, so she is playing Mrs. Mack. So it's cool to see our character from the original film come back. You might know her as Aunt Tula from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's kind of where I recognized her from when I saw the 74 film and this one now. So she is the house mother in this film. So yeah, this film very similarly follows a bunch of girls at a sorority house during Christmas time. They're getting weird phone calls. The phone calls aren't as kind of creepy as the original. And Billy is kind of part of the town's lore. There's this child who was, hated by his mother, had jaundice, so he's like very much yellow, kind of looking like the yellow bastard from Sin City, locked in the attic all his life. And the house that the sorority is in is his house that he was locked in. So he's become kind of this town myth. He actually is an existing person. We see him in an asylum, so he's since kind of gone off to live in a kind of institution because he killed his mother, ate her flesh, and all kinds of kind of craziness. So he's this very much built up real person and has kind of become part of the lore of the sorority. One of their traditions is to, when you do your secret Santa, somebody gets a gift for Billy and leaves it under the tree. So yeah, Billy is now kind of known. We see him. We get to get kind of backstory with him, which I appreciate that, you know, I did kind of enjoy not knowing anything about the killer because that's kind of unexpected. You don't see it, and it just kind of leaves you with this eerie feeling the rest of the film because, you know, the movie ends, the 1974 film ends with Billy still being in the house, Billy still making phone calls, Olivia Hussey in the house alone, and it's just very terrifying. So I kind of liked that we kept it unknown. So here, but I do kind of find it interesting that, you know, they did kind of want to give a backstory to Billy and kind of an understanding of who he is and why he kills and kind of build him up to kind of be this kind of crazy person. But then we also kind of get a second mystery killer thrown in there as well. So yeah, it very much similar, like I said, follows some sorority girls at their sorority house, which turns out to be Billy's home. There's kind of this whole idea of Billy wanting to come home for Christmas, and then yeah, as we know the story to go, one by one these girls are kind of disappearing, getting picked off. So we do kind of have our opening kill very similar to the original film, the cellophane over the face, and you know, we kind of have our archetypes, and you know, we have our drunk girl, our kind of more thoughtful girl, and our final girl, who actually is the only blonde. The rest of the girls are brunette, and it's actually Katie Cassidy, who has kind of made a name for herself, daughter of David Cassidy of the Partridge Family, has made a name for herself as kind of the not so great horror remake scream queen, being in this remake, being in the remake for A Nightmare on Elm Street, and being in the remake of A Stranger Calls. In both of those movies, she met her fate to a brunette protagonist, but this one she's kind of the one blonde in a sea of brunettes, and she's kind of our final girl. So it's kind of an interesting switch in terms of kind of how we see Katie Cassidy, which I thought was kind of funny. So yeah, we see Billy escape the institution, so now he's out, but also there's another killer in the house, so it's kind of this whole thing of like two killers and who's doing what, and we get little pepperings in of Billy's story. You know, he was a baby born with jaundice, his mother hated him, but his father loved him. His mother was having an affair, so the mother and the man she's having an affair with kill her father. Billy sees them, so they lock him in the basement. So Billy's just stuck in the basement his whole life. And then when his mother, which I did not really care for them really throwing this storyline into the mix. One night when Billy's mother can't get her rocks off because her man has just fallen asleep during the act, she goes and taps Billy to finish things off for her and gets pregnant and has a daughter. So she has this incest baby now, but still keeps Billy locked away. So that's kind of another tragic part to his story, which I don't think we really needed, but it kind of leads into why there are two killers in the house. And then they really try to set up a bunch of red herrings that just feel kind of like wasted, but they're not really well done. They have Oliver Hudson as this kind of boyfriend character. They try to kind of set him up as a bit of a red herring. Also this kind of nerdy girl character that they kind of flash to when they're talking about the incest daughter. So you're kind of they're trying to make you think that maybe she's the daughter, but that goes nowhere either. So yeah, they do kind of try to set up some interesting things, but I think it's kind of how remakes go. When you're remaking something that's fairly older, they do try to, and it's not as fleshed out in a lot of ways. They think they're doing it justice by kind of throwing more information at you, and I think it just feels like too much unnecessary information, too much like stretch material that you're just trying to throw in there, and you think you're doing something because you're fleshing out the story more, but you're just adding too many unnecessary details and plot threads that just kind of go nowhere or aren't really interesting to follow. So I didn't care for kind of the bloatedness that this movie kind of felt like it had. I liked kind of the opening setup of the girls kind of sitting around the fire and kind of having these snarky conversations. And yeah, I liked kind of the kills. I think some of them were pretty cool. A lot of them were kind of done off screen, but I liked kind of that this one was a little bit more gory, because that's kind of a fun thing in horror that I do enjoy. But I kind of feel like we got too much of Billy, like seeing him. So then, you know, they set up the second killer and we're kind of trying to figure out like what's going on there. There's this real weird obsession with eyeballs. So we see people eating eyeballs and stabbing out eyeballs and holding eyeballs. And so I don't know what this kind of weird kind of thing they have with the eyeballs. I guess that's just kind of a nod to the original film, where we kind of, you know, another poster for the original film is just that kind of shadowed kind of close-up of the killer's eye. So maybe that is kind of what they're alluding to. But yeah, like no one is really likable. You don't really care about any of these characters. You know, the movie kind of has this kind of whole thing where it kind of just still keeps going. Like, you know, we get out kind of out of the house and then we're in a hospital, and so then, you know, you think the movie's kind of done, but then it keeps going. I hate when kind of movies do that. It just feels very tacked on. And yeah, you think you've kind of ended the film, and then you just kind of try to add a whole nother kind of element because you think that's going to be interesting. You think that's going to be like, you know, you're giving people more and they're going to like more, but not if it feels hollow, and this movie kind of did feel that way. I will say I did have a lot more fun watching it than I did with 2019. It's definitely leaning into kind of 2000s horror of that era, just kind of very gory and kind of crazy and kind of showing everything, and kind of, you know, we see Billy kind of using a cookie cutter to cut his mother's skin off and like put it in the oven and bake it and eat it, and you know, somebody getting killed with a candy cane, and so very much kind of invoking a lot of the Christmas aspects, which I think was more done in this film than it was in the 2019 film. So I thought that was good that they really kind of leaned into the Christmas setting of the film. But yeah, I think some of the kills were fun. I really didn't care for any of the characters. The setups of kind of red herring, things like that, didn't really go anywhere. There were characters trying to make smart decisions, but those things didn't quite work out. I liked that we kind of got the switch up of, you know, the one blonde and it being Katie Cassidy kind of getting to be the final girl for once. And just kind of all the running around, you know, trying to get away, trying to decide what the best options are, trying to get away from the killer. Actually, some characters kind of fighting with the killer. I thought all that stuff was kind of fun. But yeah, ultimately, just it as a remake to the original, just felt very bloated. Felt like they were just kind of adding on too much extra stuff. I did like the idea of getting kind of more of Billy's backstory and kind of trying to understand him a little bit more and seeing kind of his past, which was a little bit interesting, but kind of what came out of that just felt like just too much filler stuff that you think that you're being smart by doing, but it's really just not that interesting. Overall, just had fun with it as kind of a silly slasher film with kind of crazy fun kills. I love all these actresses, so it was kind of cool to see them kind of have dynamics together, but none of them are truly likable. Even your final girl's kind of dull with Katie Cassidy, and yeah, it just kind of goes on a little too long as well. So yeah, if you're gonna pick a remake, I would probably pick this 2006 remake over the 2019 one. The 2019 one was just trying to do things and just wasn't able to execute it at all. I think this movie knew what it was trying to do. It definitely had some fun homages to the original film, but ultimately just felt like it was tacking too much on. So yeah, but if you kind of like just crazy kills and fun horror, this movie I think has a lot of those elements. So yeah, I would check it out and add it to your holiday watch list. I think it's a lot of fun, but ultimately just nothing super special like the original film. So those are my thoughts on Black Christmas 2006. Thanks for checking out this review. Put a like on it, share, subscribe, to all of the things. Check out my review on the 1974 film. And I will see you guys in the next review. Bye.